All right, good evening, everybody. It is 6 p.m. This is Tuesday, July the 11th. It is our July meeting of the Spencer Board of Aldermen. And with that, we are officially called to order. We do have all of our board members present tonight, and Mr. Steve Miller will be giving our invocation.
Thank you, sir. Will you please bow your head? Dear Heavenly Father, we would like to thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed on us. With our nation celebrating its birthday for independence last week, we are all able to experience the joy of freedom. We know that true freedom is only found through you. Please watch after all our loved ones, our neighbors, all our citizens in our community and nation. May we never forget that it is you that guides us to enjoy the many freedoms that we have. We ask in your name. Amen.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, board, you have before you a few different items on your agenda to consider approving tonight, and there's also been a request to make a few amendments, and so I will list those off. There is a request at this point in time to remove item 8, the resolution 23-17 Health Center grant, and table that until the August meeting. And then there is a request to remove item 7E, which is the lien for 314 North Rowan Avenue. And then there's a request to add budget ordinance 23-14.002 for 520 Salisbury Avenue. That is printed before you. That relates to the town parking lot beside of Pinocchio's. And so with that, are there any other additions or deletions? And is there a recommendation for where, if you do approve the adding the budget ordinance 23-14.002 to the agenda, where you would like to put that in the agenda?
I would recommend that we replace that, take out the health center grant and put that there. Does that make sense?
It does. All right.
Do you need a motion?
I do need a formal motion to approve the amended agenda as suggested.
I move to approve the amended agenda as presented.
All right. There's a motion by Ms. Sledge.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miller, I think. All in favor? All right. All opposed? And that is approved. All right. We will move to our recognitions. I do want to make one recognition tonight. We had a very successful 4th of July event on July the 1st with our fireworks that were done at the North Carolina Transportation Museum. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank our town staff for all the preparation and planning that y'all did. I know last year we had a huge turnout, and we experienced a similar turnout this year. And this year I think we were better prepared for the crowds that we had, and so we were able to augment what the Transportation Museum was doing for those that parked over here in Park Plaza and the surrounding areas. And so thank you for all of the planning and the cleanup and everything that went in and monitoring the area for parking. And then to our North Carolina Transportation Museum partners for taking the initiative to put this on each year. We're really appreciative of it, and glad to have that type of tradition here in Spencer, and look forward to many more years of doing that. With that, are there any other recognitions from the board this evening? Okay, hearing none, we will move to our public comment, and we do not have anyone signed up this evening for public comment. And have we received any written correspondence for public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And board, you now have before you your consent agenda. So all of the items that are on the consent agenda, except for item 7E, which we removed. Is there a reason to pull any additional items for further discussion? Or if not, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with the revisions noted.
There is a motion by Mr. Morgan,
Second.
by Mr. Muhammad. All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved. All right, so item 8 now is to consider adopting Budget Ordinance Amendment 23-14.002 to appropriate funds from contingency. Mr. Franzese, do you want to discuss this briefly?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and members of the board. As you will recall, the town purchased property at 520 South Salisbury Avenue, which is the gravel lot at the corner of Salisbury Avenue and 6th Street next to Pinocchio's a few years back, and that was set up to make a 3-year payment process of $5,000 a year. We at this point have 2 years or $10,000 worth of payments left. The seller has requested that the town pay that off early if possible, and agreed to that if we did so, that the remaining interest would be waived, which is about $750. And so we're therefore recommending that for your approval.
All right, very good. My understanding is that the individual that we bought the property from is intending to close out their corporation, which is kind of a historic oil corporation. They're looking to close out that in its entirety, and so I think this is the last piece of property that's still on the books that they would like to be able to close out. So I think that's where that request is coming from, and there again, it would allow us to eliminate any future debt encumbrance and also reduce that payment by $750. So are there any questions from the board?
I guess we've already budgeted $5,000 in the budget this year. Is that right?
But actually, that's being corrected as part of this. Is we realized at the time of the discussions that was something that did not make it in the budget, which is why we're asking for $10,000 out of the contingency. We anticipate that there will be an opportunity as the year progresses that we could restore some contingency back if things come in favorably. But for now, that's why we're asking for you to consider appropriating some of your contingency towards this.
Okay. Other questions?
That would leave 15,000 still in the contingency fund.
Correct.
Anything else?
Was part of that contingency fund going to be used for the schools, the area schools? Is that where we talked about using some of that funding for?
I believe we specifically allocated money for that as a line item.
What we talked about earmarking some of the contingency was for this health center grant match, which was going to be about $1,875 of that. We had talked about at the time that's where we would use it from, but what we talked about for the schools was allocated elsewhere.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? All right, hearing none, is there a motion for consideration from the board?
Mr. Mayor, I move we adopt this as presented.
There's a motion by Mr. Howe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. Any further discussion? All in favor? All right, all opposed? And that is approved unanimously. All right, thank you, board. We will now turn the floor over to Mr. Blunt for a staff presentation on the U.S. Highway 29 zoning classification and code enforcement.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, before we get started, I'll give you a little good news, bad news. Good news is that after I presented this package to Anna to include in your materials, I was ashamed at how boring it was and how it really didn't meet the standards of what you've come to expect from us. So I spent a lot of time revising this and making it better, so it will be more entertaining. That's the good news. Bad news is that it grew by 3 slides.
That's okay.
Got a little longer. So what we're talking about tonight is the US Highway 29 that runs obviously from Spencer out to the river. And that first slide sort of tells part of the story. Is this the missing link to prosperity, to Spencer's future prosperity? We've done a lot of talking about really 2 specific areas, and then a third that is not really a part of this, but a lot of talking about the downtown Spencer area and all the amenities that we have here and that y'all supported developing over time. And then the new focus is out on the river with the Aiken River District planning process that we're getting ready to start, the Trailhead Park that we're getting ready to finish, and other projects in that area. Of course, there's the industrial and commercial development along Longs Ferry Road and up I-85. But the part that we haven't really talked a whole lot about is the connection between the river and the downtown area. That yellow line follows Salisbury Avenue and US Highway 29. So what we are going to talk a little bit about tonight is the process of connecting the downtown commercial district, core residential areas, and amenities like these. Our beautiful downtown that's getting better every day. The new Town Hall Park that's going to get started hopefully this year and be finished in about a year. The Standback Forest, which has doubled in size this year and is being improved as we speak as far as improving the trails, trail maps, and amenities. And of course our North Carolina Transportation Museum that brings people to our community. We're going to connect all those good things and more to the Aiken River District. And lest you think that's still just a dream, right out there and take a look at that. It's getting very close to looking exactly like that picture. The plantings and landscaping's a little young and immature, but give it a year and I think it will look almost exactly like that picture. Something to really be proud of. The North Carolina Finishing Company redevelopment will be a part of this planning process that I mentioned. This may seem a little cartoonish in its depiction of what that park would look like, but if you get a chance to look at this slide a little more closely, it includes residential townhomes, a public dock, maybe a public swimming pool, public lake, and an assortment of businesses and restaurants located in and around our park areas. We all have recognized how important this is to the future of Spencer, along with all the commercial and industrial development that we've been talking about, and look forward to seeing groundbreakings on those in the near future. We have talked a little bit about connecting it. EB 5861 that you've all learned to know and love that number is the designation for the sidewalk, greenway, bike lane project funded through DOT that will give us an amazing pedestrian and bicycle connection from all those downtown amenities out to the new amenities that will be located at the river. But downtown Spencer is 3 miles from the river. And if you want to have people go from one to the other, if you want to connect the two, we need to pay a little attention to that connection. We need to make sure that we improve it along with the other parts that we've been working on. So we started looking at the zoning classifications and what's being done currently on the properties along that corridor. And this slide depicts to you the green, which usually indicates good. From 17th Street up to Longs Ferry, we checked the zoning of the existing uses, and everything, quite honestly, looks pretty good. The zoning matches the uses for the most part, and the uses make sense where they're located, so we don't think we need to do too much work there. From Longs Ferry out to Sowers Road, there's a few problems, but not many. Quite honestly, it's fairly well located as far as the uses, and the zoning matches the uses to some degree. But from Sowers Road to the river, we run into a problem. The zoning classifications don't match the uses. The uses are not particularly appropriate to what we're trying to depict as a wonderful corridor that will encourage people to go from one place to the other. There's your zoning map. And it's a good map, an improvement over the last one. And all that purple that you see from Sowers Road to the river and on both sides, and more importantly along the highway corridor, that's industrial zoning, light industrial, IND. In years past, that wasn't a bad thought process. Let's preserve that property out there for the future so that we will have some property to use for that type of development. But what you've seen is most of the stuff along I-85 and Longs Ferry Road has followed that pattern, not the stuff on 29. A little closer focus, you'll see that all that property is zoned industrial, except for that little sliver that used to be, I think, the NCDOT way station, which is zoned civic. It's not used for that anymore. I can't quite honestly tell you what it's used for, but it's something. This gives you a little more starkly representative idea of that whole area is zoned industrial. Bang, in your face. Nothing else is allowed out there but industrial. But that's what the actual uses are. The black is existing heavy commercial or industrial. The hash marks show undeveloped land that quite honestly will likely end up as industrial or heavy commercial distribution. But all that stuff along the corridor is either existing residential, existing light commercial, or in a few specific cases, existing auto repair shops that are evolving into junkyards. The question that I'm leading up to in several more slides is what do we do about that? But before we do that, let's see what that looks like. Here's what 29 looks like from Sowers Road out to the river. That property that used to be the way station that I can't tell you what it's used for, there's those two little modular buildings. And I see cars parked out there from time to time, but I quite honestly can't tell you exactly what they're doing there. Not sure what kind of business that is. The other slides show you some of these auto repair shops that have evolved into junkyards. And we'll talk about those in more detail a little later. So I started looking at individual properties, and this is at Sowers Road. Obviously, PCA and Swing Transport make up the majority of this area, but those two sites, one of them labeled 1, labeled 2, is actually a residential lot and a junkyard. And in our opinion, those don't belong there. Or if they do belong there, we need to change the zoning so that they're allowed there. The other 13 sites, we found 15 that we thought were inappropriately zoned, look like this. A hair salon, very nice one. Must be a lot of money in hair products. The mayor and I wouldn't know because we don't have much to work with, but that's a nice brick building, nice commercial use, well kept. Across the street's a nightclub of some type, not so well kept. A lot of single family homes scattered through there. A used car dealership that really is not allowed in the industrial zoning classification. Some more single family homes, that uncertain use property. Another, the car repair / junkyards. There's even a church stuck back in there that's zoned industrial. If that makes any sense to anybody. So the question that we're going to bring before you philosophically tonight and in more specifics in later meetings is all these properties are zoned industrial. They are all legal non-conforming uses because of that and because of other problems, quite honestly. The question is, should we change their zoning or do we expect them to evolve into that industrial use? Is that really our plan? So if we decide to rezone them, what classifications should we apply? I'll give you a great practical example. Last week, a lady called, owns a piece of property out there. It's an old home. It's in terrible disrepair. She wanted to know if she could tear it down. And number one, could she put a trailer on it? And the answer to that's a simple no. We don't allow trailers on single properties. You have to have a trailer park. But the other question was, well, if I tear it down, can I build a house back? And the answer to that is no. Your property is zoned industrial. You tear your house down, you can only put up something that's allowed in the industrial classification. The houses aren't allowed. Obviously, on her 1 acre lot, she's not going to build an industry, a distribution center or anything. It's too small. So she's caught in the catch-22 of zoning. Her house has been out of use for a long time. She has no choice but to tear it down. If she tears it down, what can she do with it? Not much. There are some uses that would fit, but not many. So we start thinking about legal non-conforming uses and what the purpose of those are. Why do you have that classification? And it boils down to a town evolves, its zoning ordinances evolve, its zoning map evolves, and its vision of itself changes over time. And those uses, what you hope is that over some period of time, they will evolve with the town. They will either become conforming by changing the way they're doing their operation, or that they will just go away, quite honestly, that something else will take their place. That is in there based on a theory of being fair to property owners. It's okay for a town to evolve. It's okay for a board to change its vision of its community. It's okay for us to grow. But we have to be fair to a property owner who's invested a lot of his life and his time and his money into building a business. He needs time to evolve. He needs time to change. He needs time and ways to work with the town to meet both goals. So, suggested rezonings will be coming to you in the near future. We'll take it property by property, meet with the property owners, discuss things with them, try to come up with some ideas that work for the town and for the property owners, and get those things rezoned. As we were doing this, we bumped into some code enforcement issues. And as you've heard me deride the junkyards, that's what we found, was 4 properties that we had questions on whether they, number one, were even allowed in the zoning classification. If they were, whether they were operating their business properly. And surprisingly, I'll start with this one, the car dealership. Clearly not allowed in industrial zoning. And therefore, we were going to talk to them about maybe having to shut down over some period of time. And they told us, hey, we came to y'all and got a special use permit back in 2001. And we dug through the property files, and sure enough, there it was. The comment on that one was, has always been a car dealership, is currently a car dealership, and should be allowed to continue as a car dealership. That was the finding of facts in that particular case. Probably wouldn't hold up in court, would it, Jenny? No, didn't think so. I was just testing to see if he was really listening to me.
I can't help it.
He is in violation, however, of parking cars in the road right away. And that red line that you see on the lower left-hand picture, you see clearly in the upper right-hand picture that he's parking cars out in the road right away. And he will be required to move those out of the road right away. The other 3 properties were a little different. Each of these properties started out historically as some type of car repair shops. This one, I think, I was told it was a body shop for a lot of years. This is across the street from PAC. It's at 1303 Highway 29. This one, again, evolved from an automobile repair shop of some type, and as cars were brought in that could not be repaired for whatever reason, they just got pushed to the back of the property. And because they were back in the woods and they were out of sight, they were out of mind, and nobody pursued it to any great degree. This property owner put up a nice fence along the right-of-way, so we can't say that he's parking any vehicles in the road right-of-way. He's not violating that requirement. But the ordinance goes on, and I'll show you the actual ordinance shortly, to say that you can't park or store vehicles in the front yard setback in the IND zoning classification. The front yard setback in that classification is 80 feet from the property line. So that yellow line that you see in the lower right-hand corner is the line to which he cannot park cars in front of. So all those cars that you see in that lower right-hand picture parked in front of that yellow line need to be moved. It also requires screening and buffering, and we'll get to that in just a minute. This is at 2110. Similar situation. The historic photograph in the upper left-hand corner shows you that at one point it was just a clean, simple auto repair shop. Probably was a gas station back historically. Over time, he stored more and more junk vehicles on his property. Those vehicles got pushed to the front of the property. The lower right-hand corner shows you the vehicles parked in the road right away. The lower left-hand corner shows you that yellow line, the 80-foot setback line, which he's not supposed to have any vehicles stored beyond that line, which he obviously does. And then the upper right-hand corner picture I actually took about a week ago after James talked to him and told him he was going to have to put up a buffer to hide all his cars from view. That's his effort at a buffer. So about 40 years from now, we'll have some kind of buffer. Our ordinance is very specific on what the buffering is, and I'll tell you what that is. This does not quite meet that requirement. This one started out as a shade tree mechanic at 1785 Highway 29. It was an old building. He put up a tarp next door to it, started fixing cars out there. To his credit, when he moved in, there was a huge pile of used tires out there. And James cited him on that. He worked diligently to get those moved off the property and cleaned it up. It looked pretty nice. But as we started looking at these properties, the lower right-hand picture was taken a week or so ago. You can see that more and more cars are being stored on the property. They're being parked in the road right away. The yellow line again depicts the line where he has to move all those vehicles behind that line. Can't store vehicles in front of that line. So there's the actual ordinance. Vehicles can't be parked in the public right-of-way. No vehicles can be parked in the front yard setback. All vehicles have to be screened from the road by a 6-foot opaque fence and a type D planted buffer. This one, the black line, is the 80-foot line. That shows that he needs to push everything back behind those 80-foot lines. This is what a type D buffer looks like. It's a mixture of trees and shrubs. But behind that tree line has to be a 6-foot opaque fence that blocks the vehicles from view from the road. Code enforcement efforts will continue. Again, these people have been in business for decades. Their business has changed over those decades from car repair shops to what looks a whole lot more like a junkyard now. The town of Spencer's allowed them to do that, sort of out of sight, out of mind. Nobody was thinking 40 years ago that we were going to grow to the north and make the Yadkin River District an economic success story. So now we've got to go back and clean up. We're going to give them time. We're going to be fair with them. We're going to work with them to find ways that are beneficial to them. Hopefully that in their effort to move cars, they'll actually get rid of some of them. There's value in those old junk cars. And our effort is to clean it up and make it look good and then see it evolve over the future years and months. So there's 36 slides. I appreciate you listening. We'll be back to you in coming months with code enforcement efforts and with rezoning thoughts on those other projects. Be glad to answer any questions.
So, Steve, I know the planning board did not meet this month.
They did. They met last
Oh, they
month.
did? Okay. I know in the past they haven't met in July. So has
I
this
don't
been?
give them a meeting off.
Well, good for you.
That's silly.
That being the case, then has this been presented to them?
Presented it to them last night.
Okay. And what was the reaction?
The sledge, I thought they received it well, asked some good questions, understood the process, understood that those rezonings were going to be coming through them. They get to recommend to you yes or no, or whether my idea is a good idea or a bad idea. What I want both bodies to do, the planning board and this board to do, is to be aware that as we ramp up the code enforcement efforts, you're going to hear some complaints. The first complaint we heard, which is a very logical one, was I've been doing this for 30 years, and nobody's ever told me not to do it. Why are you coming and telling me now that I can't do it? After that comment and after discussions with that person, I think they understood what we're trying to accomplish, and they seem to be willing to work with us to make things happen. When we start doing the rezonings, we will handle them the same way. We'll actually go out and meet with the property owners, and then you'll hear from them. So I just want to make sure you're aware this is coming. That's why I'm presenting it to you.
One of the questions that was asked last night had to do with the amount of time a person had to make an improvement, particularly in the situation of the abandoned house.
Had to do with how long a property could remain vacant before they didn't have the right to go back and use it for that non-conforming use. And quite honestly, I didn't look it up today. I had to answer last night that I didn't know the exact. There is a time frame. If you not abandon, if in this lady's situation she hasn't used her house for residential use over some period of time, and we could substantiate that, then she can't even go back and put residential use on the existing building. She loses that right. That's part of the non-conforming use rules and regulations that puts people at risk for being non-conforming. That's why we want to try to get them in a conforming zoning classification, so they don't run that risk. The town gets development that will benefit us from an economic development perspective. And quite honestly, as that corridor improves, the property values are going to go up. So what is now a junky looking junkyard will be a very valuable piece of property in the coming years. It's already pretty valuable, quite honestly, if you look at the tax value. But it will become more and more valuable as we clean up this area and as we get the river district started in development. And hopefully that's coming soon.
Other questions from the board? We appreciate the work you're putting into it, and look forward to updates in the future.
Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, as part of this, I would invite Scott Shelton to come up. He's visiting from the Economic Development Corporation this evening, and I think he may have just a few updates on development in and around that area.
Thank you, Mayor. Board members, thank you for having me here today. As the Mayor said, I did have a few minor updates. I know Mr. Blunt's been talking to a lot of the developers in the area interested in Spencer, and there's a lot of potentially exciting things going on there. Again, just to kind of touch on a couple of things here, we are still always conscious of trying to find the next site or enhancing properties we know that are available. A few months back, we did contract with the engineering firm of ESP Associates to do endangered species and cultural resources assessments of the old finishing company site. No major issues. They did mention in the report there was the possibility that it could be a likely habitat for that endangered sunflower. I can't pronounce it. Schweitzels. Thank you. Yeah. Of course, it was done before the flowering window happens. We'd have to go back and check on that, but otherwise there's no real concerns that I'm aware of on that. We also did submit the finishing company site to a real estate development firm that reached out to us back in early spring, looking for sites. Everybody's looking for sites along 85. There's not much left now. We did tell them of some of the challenges with that site right now, as far as probably needing brownfields assessments, but we did submit that to them. Haven't heard anything regarding that since then. But also, we're trying to help move along the development of the Lamb Fisher property. I know that everybody knows it's under contract to a developer. I know they're trying to find funding for infrastructure out there, and right now we're trying to ascertain whether or not the North Carolina Railroad's Build Ready Sites program could be a good fit for it. They do offer up to $500,000 for water and sewer or grading for properties. We're not quite sure yet if they will do that for a spec project. And I was telling the mayor before the meeting, there may be a condition on that to where they would require the property to be marketed for industrial or rail serve uses for a certain period of time. Again, we're trying to ascertain that, but still, if the owners are willing to do that, if that is a rule, might be an opportunity there to come up with some funding to help offset some of those costs. Also, we had our Fort Rowan investor event last month on the 21st at Cannonballer Stadium. I know the mayor attended. I think Mr. Miller attended as well. wasn't much of a night for a ball game. I about froze out there, but we're glad to have them out there. And again, it was a fun night. Also, our board meeting is this Thursday at 3:30. I know Alderwoman Sledge does a great job of attending and giving updates on what's going on in Spencer, and we really appreciate that. We also appreciate the town of Spencer for its support of the EDC. We're getting ready to announce a project on Monday. It's out in the county, but it'll be a nice win for the county, 150 jobs, pretty sizable investment. So again, it's exciting times. May have a few more coming up over the summer. So again, a lot of things going on in Rowan County. So.
Very good. Thank you for the update, and thanks for your partnership and support and continuing to help try and market some of these properties.
Great. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. The next item on the agenda are our departmental reports, and first item is our planning department report.
Mayor, members of the board, you have my written report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right. Questions from the board?
Pat's already gotten me before the meeting, so.
Do we see any future development? I know there's future development on Longford, but is anything in the near couple months or anything like that you see?
Yes.
Maybe. Tight lip.
The Fisher Lamb site, Scott mentioned that they've been looking for a financial partner. They found the financial partner.
Good.
So I can tell you that. That project will be getting back on track in the near future. As you remember, that project included building a road from Hackett down to Longs Ferry.
Right.
That is still a part of the plan to develop that road to access those properties and properties north of there. The Johnson development, which is the one on the Longs Ferry Road to the left of where the new access road will go.
Yeah.
350,000 square foot distribution center has pretty much finished all of their planning approval with the town, with Salisbury Rowan Utilities, and with NCDOT as far as their access. They are ready to pull the trigger on that one and start clearing the site. We hope to see that happen before the end of the year. The same is basically true of the truck stop project across the street from there. We have been told who the truck stop is. I can't share that information at this point. It does have a fast food restaurant associated with it. So we will have a new fast food restaurant in Spencer. That one I think also will break ground before the end of the year. The one on the east side of the interstate, the large one that we annexed not too long ago, they have not abandoned the project, but have put the brakes on until the interest rates get back under some level. They do their calculations based on borrowing money for a project of that size, and where any percentage point on an interest rate hurts us when we buy a house, you can imagine what it does to them when they're borrowing X number of $100 million to develop something. But they are still moving ahead with all the permitting process. They want to have it ready to go and be able to stick a shovel in the dirt just as soon as they get the numbers to where they work. The Longs Ferry Road traffic study, which will impact a lot of this development, has been completed. There is a joint meeting with you and the county commissioners being scheduled at this time. I don't know if we've got a final date on that yet, but you'll be hearing about that soon. So we can present that plan to you and show you the actual impacts for traffic on Longs Ferry Road. The one that has stuck a shovel in the ground is the Clyde's Corner. One of those houses is going up as we speak.
Yeah.
The others are planned to follow soon after that. We have other small developments of that type that are going to break ground shortly on residential developments. The large townhome project on Hawkinstown Road, 142 townhomes, I believe it is. They have finally gotten their, what we call a sketch plan approved, and they're ready to move on to the next steps in the planning approval process. So that one will be moving along fairly quickly.
What about the one on 7th Street?
7th Street.
7th Street, again, all the planning has been approved. NCDOT has approved the driveway permits. SRU's approved the water permits, water tap and sewer permits. We've approved the engineered drawings, so the next step is for them to take out zoning permits to actually start building the buildings and doing the site work. I have been told that could happen at any time.
Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Osborne, code enforcement.
Mr. Mayor, board members,
Good evening.
how you doing this evening?
Good.
You have my report. I want to kind of highlight a little bit on those areas that Mr. Went was speaking about on North Salisbury Avenue and US 29, just some of the efforts that I've taken up there. I just want to kind of profile that just a little bit. I have made contact with each individual homeowner, property owner with the junkyards and or auto repair stations. I've sent them notices and I'm speaking to each owner on the phone. The only one that I've actually spoken to about the changes or the requirements at this point are the Millers, which is at 2110 North 29. So he's aware of the requirements and he's willing to comply. He's just asking for some time to get the stuff together, and hopefully the weather will be cooled down for him. So he's a little bit older and heat's kind of hard on him. So he's willing to comply. So I'm not upset about that. You know, obviously he's going to work with us. So other than that, I just kind of want to let you know that those steps have taken place and everybody's notified at some levels about what needs to take place. Any questions about some of the contacts I've had with those? That's the only thing I wanted to highlight.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have two things. Mr. Osborne, I've been going around our town looking at the vehicles parked in yards, parked in backyards. Take you on a little trip. Go down Charles Street. There at the corner of Oakwood Drive. The address is 508 Oakwood Drive. There's been a dull red Saab sitting there on 4 flat tires in the driveway. If you continue out Charles Street toward 3rd Street at 1105, the first duplex that you come to on the left as you're headed toward 3rd Street, there's a old tan Toyota that's parked parallel off in the grass next to the duplex, again with 4 flat tires. Now these vehicles have been there for years, and I would like to know why. I know that the one on Oakwood. I'll leave that to you. Okay. Do you want to answer tonight, or are you? No, I just. There are many, many more. These are just 2 examples. Okay. When I drive around town, again, there are vehicles parked in yards, side yards, and backyards. You know, we seem to have our only focus on the corridor to the Yadkin River, while the rest of the town goes to hell in a handbasket. I would like to see some more emphasis placed. You know, the word was supposed to get out to our residents that no, you're not supposed to park anywhere unless it's on a prepared surface. And yet, vehicles are allowed to do this all the time. And like I said, I can bring a laundry list of things in here, but I'm just taking those 2 as prime examples because they have literally been sitting there for years.
So, Mr. Osborne, what are the actions that we're taking relative to junk vehicles as well as cars that are parked on unimproved surfaces? I know that we had made a big push for that. So there was a push, but some of that has been redirected into, since the high grass issues, that's taken a lot of my focus. I obviously need to get back on that. I have no excuses other than the fact that I've been distracted by other things. So.
We'll be able to look back into this and make sure we're spreading our focus where it needs to be.
Well, we understand code enforcement's kind of a whack-a-mole type of business. You have cars popping up one place and you deal with that, and then we have grass popping up in another place. So. But Mr. Morgan, thank you for bringing that to our attention. Other questions from the board?
Briefly, I see an address, and maybe it's just not appropriate to talk about at this point. So if that's the case, I'm just asking. I see 200 South Salisbury Avenue on here several times for looks like some of the similar things, and then maybe some different things. If you can or want to talk about that at this time, what's going on there?
The recent issue with that particular property is the parking in the rear. Some of the vehicles, there's about 18 vehicles at last time I counted in the rear of the property. I've spoken to the property owner, who has spoken to the tenant. Some of those vehicles are supposedly waiting pickup, and through our ordinance that conditional use zoning, he can't have more than 10 vehicles awaiting service. So if he says they're waiting pickup, they're not waiting service. So effectively, he can have more than 10 cars in the back. The problem is I can't define which ones are which because there's no marking, there's no designated parking. So I effectively counted them all when I made that case. And so in that time frame, I've requested that he make a designated parking area for all the vehicles in the rear so that I know which ones are which. So that way I don't miscount. He also countered and said that he asked that I did not count cars during the work hours, which I think is fair, since he might be moving vehicles to and from during the daytime. So that's where that stands. I've changed that from an open case to a pending to determine how many vehicles he has in the back that are actually waiting service.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I think for now that'll work. I'm sad. I understand there may be that may be revisited. So I appreciate that. Appreciate the update.
Other questions? All right. Thank you. All right. Chief File, Police Department.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope each of you are doing well this evening. Have a lot to go over. I promised the guys in the back I would try to be as brief as I could. A lot going on this month. Our officers have been very busy. If you take a look at the report for this month, we had 1,667 events. So we have been busy this summer. That has been utilizing some of our SRO staff if they have been out of school. Obviously, we continue doing our school checks and keeping check on those properties even when the students are not there. Additionally, Corporal Reap assisted the Sheriff's Office with their great camp this year. It is our intent to bring a camp style here next year and host it ourselves. I already have the program written for that. So it'll be all hands on deck next year as we roll that out. Kind of staying with the SRO theme, Officer Riotti has been selected to go for the new position that the school system is funding 100% for our additional SRO. So she will actually be attending training next week for her SRO initial class, which will get her certified to where she can work in the schools. So she will be transitioning over to the school on day one. We'll probably give her a couple days prior to that to go over there and get an office set up and kind of get her feet wet. And she'll start working with Corporal Reef, and he's been doing SRO duties for a number of years. He's going to kind of be a mentor for her. So we're excited about that, and I know she is also. If you look at the activity events for this month, you'll notice the activity event for the Yadkin Park checks, 51 checks for the Spencer side and 3 checks for the Davidson County side. Everybody probably wonders why. It's a little bit of a political issue, we'll call it that, on our Davidson County checks. With that being said, I've reached out, Sheriff Simmons reached out to me, and we're going to be meeting and try to find a mutually beneficial check system that we're going to put into place. So my desire is, and hopefully I'll be able to report back next month, that we will again be checking Davidson County's park. They're also going to hopefully come across the bridge and do a little U-turn at our section. It's going to give us both double coverage down there, which I'm excited to see. Hopefully that pans out. So I will definitely update you at the next board meeting on that. Staffing. That's always an issue, a hot spot for us. I'm happy to say, sending Officer Iodi to the school to fill that position, that vacated another one on patrol. So that leaves me 2 short on patrol, plus the 2 positions that were added this budget year for our ACE team. I've identified 1 full-time lateral candidate for one of the patrol positions. We're finishing the background process on him currently, and hopefully his anticipated start date will be towards the end of this month. It's my goal to get him here before National Night Out so he can kind of be introduced to the community and be out mingling about with everybody on that night. That's still going to leave me a few extra positions to fill. We have identified 2 candidates to attend Billy T that starts on the 24th of this month. Both of them scored very well in all of their pre-tests. Part of our background process includes a written test here, includes a written test with the college, includes an oral board panel. They've already been through all of that. They're finishing up their stages to be able to go to Billy T starting on the 24th. So it's very good this class comes a little bit earlier than the other one, so they will be coming out of school before Thanksgiving. It's a long ways away, but it's okay. I think it's going to be in our best interest to go ahead and send them to this school. That way, we've got guys that have a little bit of buy-in to the agency. Kind of hard for them to turn their back on you too fast when you send them to school and take care of them and push them along the way. So that will still leave 1 additional opening. At that point, we will be holding that position, looking for a good lateral candidate. I need somebody that's going to be already have some experience to go into that position. So we'll be holding that position, and I will be working with Anna to send that out, hopefully further, and posting specifically for the ACE team, which will hopefully get us somebody that's more tailored towards that position. So I'll update the board next month on that. Definitely last but not least, 506 South Yadkin Avenue is vacated, which we're very happy about. Additionally, I'll tell you the guys have put in hundreds of hours on that case with the most recent shooting that occurred over there. We wrote 7 search warrants over the course of the last month or 2. 25,000 pages of documentation received from those search warrants. Some of these were digital warrants. They were for digital documents and accounts. Some of them were in-person search warrants. Thank goodness, I will say we have identified the additional suspect that was involved in that, and their outstanding warrants for attempted first-degree murder. So we will definitely update the board when that warrant is served. I had hopes that this individual may turn themselves in, but it seems that that time came and passed today, and they did not turn themselves in. So I will definitely update you when I have more on that. Obviously, this is still sensitive in nature because it does involve individuals that are juvenile. So I really can't release more than that, but I will tell you we identified that additional suspect. So I'm very happy with all the hard work the guys put in on that.
Chief Bob,
yes.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I have a question pertaining to that particular property. Do the property owners know the extent, the time and effort and money that went into getting this situation resolved?
Yeah, I believe so. They've been very, the property owner was very helpful with us on this once we notified them. So I will say personally, we've been very happy with how they responded. So I know they've got a mess to clean up at the house. It's pumped full of bullet holes. So they're going to be putting forth a lot of effort into getting that residence cleaned up and ready for either rent or sale. I know there's some talk of them possibly selling the house. If the plan goes through that there's been a little chatter about, we may see an officer living in the house. So I'll be very happy to see that. What better than have an officer right here behind the PD? So we'd definitely be happy if that pans out. So. Last thing I need to mention, National Night Out. Obviously, that's coming up on August 1st from 5:30 to 8 p.m. So definitely we invite everybody to come out. I know there's going to be a lot more information shared about that. The social media campaign just recently started on that. We're working with individual vendors and donors that are going to be here. So that is all hands on deck event for the PD. And then obviously a ton of assistance from Public Works and the fire department, everybody really in town hall. So definitely we cross your fingers for good weather, and we hope to see each of you out there that evening. And if you have any more questions, I will try to answer them the best of my abilities.
Is that August the 1st? Is that the same night as the grand opening for the golf car place? Do I?
No,
No,
it's a trail.
Theirs is, yeah.
Okay.
Always a
second
trail.
country after that, yeah.
Okay. I thought that
Um,
might be.
Yeah, thank goodness those don't collide.
Yeah, I
I
thought
think both
that
are
might
going to be
be a
fairly big
conflict.
events.
Literally.
It would be a big night out.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you,
All
Chief
right,
Powell.
thank you.
Thanks for your
Thank
work
you.
on the that one case. All right, Fire Department, Chief Lanning.
Mayor and board, how are you this afternoon?
Good.
Doing well.
So I was excited coming into today. I didn't really have anything for my report. Obviously, it was presented to you. It was kind of basic, but you know, we're in a new budget year, so now we need to spend money. So first thing I want to hit on is call volume. The one thing that I didn't really go into detail is our partnership with the city of Salisbury's grown, which obviously we rely on them. They have in turn began to rely on us more heavily. So if you see the trucks going towards Salisbury, we have been going about 2 or 3 times a day. Some of the stuff just smells and bells. Some of it's maybe city units tied up. We're responding to kind of backfill for them. We weren't actively involved. I'm sure some of y'all seen that there was a lady who lost her life in a structure fire in Salisbury. We were there. They were with them on that. Again, Spencer was really close to Confederate Avenue. So that's kind of one of the reasons we've increased our partnership is in a lot of, especially this side of the city, we can have a fire truck there before the city can. It's not bashing them. It's just, we're just as close. With that, it's hot. We've been going to about 1 to 2 fires a week here lately. I'm ready for it to stop. It's entirely too hot for that. Plus, I hate seeing people lose their property. But we're on track to yet again have our busiest year. We're about 150 calls ahead of where we were this time last year. Apparatus, the report says it's all in service. As of today, our frontline engine is out of service. So, the list of issues, we tried to send it to DPW. It was something that was above them, so we met with our external vendor we use for maintenance. There was water in the rear axle. There were 3 leaking air valves, which was causing us to lose air, one of which was on the air brake side. Brake pads on the rear needed to be replaced, and with that came the rotors need to be replaced. So it'll be out of service for hopefully the end of the week. We'll have it back in service, and like me and Peter talked earlier, it's going to make a really nice reserve truck here soon. So I'm looking forward to that. My replacement vehicle for my pickup is in the shop with the tentative tape that it will be upfitted by the end of July. So I can bring that up for the next board meeting, let everyone see that. And then we will be bringing the 2006 Crown Vic for y'all for surplus. Dragon Boat Race. It's the 22nd. Currently, we've got 15 on the roster. We do have enough to have a team, but obviously we would like a little bit more. I've currently got 7 females and 8 males. A couple, I'm going to try to go down some rabbit holes and try to pull some people out. But so that's better than it was last month. Coffee with the Chiefs. I think Sergeant Leonard attended this morning. I had a meeting in Granite, so I was unable to attend. So hopefully they had some participation there. And then one of the last things I want to remind everybody, we do have our fire camp the 24th to the 26th from 9 to 5. It's our first annual. We kind of started low with 10 participants for rising 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. So right now we've got 3 spots left. If I end up getting 11, 12 applications, I'm not going to turn any kids away. So just a reminder, everybody, it's free. We're going to eat the cost of everything out of the budget. So I just need them to come be involved and have some positive mentorship through their summer. Last thing, kind of like Chief File said, we'll hit on staffing. Part-timers come and go. It's unfortunate. I had 3 that accepted full-time positions elsewhere. One female, she resigned last week. Kind of unfortunate. We let her join with no certifications as a resident 3 years ago and seen her come all the way through to a fully certified fireman, and she accepted a spot for the city of Belmont. So she chose to focus on her career. Got a couple that are one got hired for the city of Kannapolis. Unfortunately, that means for the next month or so, he's not going to be working for us. Last month, we had about 30% vacancy for our part-time shifts. It's doable. It's just less than ideal. So I know personally I worked 6 12-hour shifts last month on top of the normal. So we're trying. If you know anybody that's interested, wants a job, send them my way. We'll definitely interview them and run them through the paces. So Any questions for me?
All right. Thank you,
Thank
Chief.
you. You have a great night.
Chief,
You too.
stay safe.
All right. The man that's grinning from ear to ear today. Mr. Taylor, Public Works.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the board.
Good evening.
Well, as you can see, we have a truck. So we'll lead off with that. Good news. Everything's great. We just received it today. So it has not moved from that parking lot since lunch. So everything's done. We'll get it back down. We're working on decals to go on the sides and maybe possibly the rear to label it as a Spencer truck. Probably use the logo. And then we'll get it up to there. Roughly a month from now is when we're looking to put it in service. So we've got a few logistics to work out on several streets, especially traffic, and some educational stuff that we need to do. But we'll have it in service as soon as possible. And very good. Afterwards, it'll be available. Anybody that wants to look at it, turn it on, drive it, blow the horn, as Mr. Miller did earlier. Whatever. So it'll be available after the meeting as well to look it over. I'll lead off also with the 12U baseball tournament that they had over at the ballpark. Despite the dreary weather that we had to play that in, I do want to give Phip and Jackson Sparger a big kudos for trying to get that field prepared, because it was a muddy mess. I've never mowed with water sloshing out from under the tires, but we did. We mowed it, we got it, and they had a wonderful time, and they are really looking forward to getting some more tournaments in here. The people were very appreciative of what we did.
Yeah.
But I did want to give Pip and Jackson, because they did a wonderful job drying that dirt out. I mean, it was crazy. The two oaks at the library park, if you've noticed or been by there, one of them is no longer there. That one was just too dangerous to let sit. So we went ahead and got rid of it. Still deciding on the second one. I got a few other people I want to look at it before we make a decision. I do have an estimate to take it down. And hopefully it doesn't go to that, but I have a feeling insurance-wise and liability-wise, I don't know that there's going to be any other way. But I do want some more some other people to look at it and verify before we make that decision. The process of painting at the library has been done. It is finished. They sealed the doors and fixed, I think, 5 panes of glass at the end that they found as we were going through. So the painting has been completed, and we just submitted their invoice. So Jose did a great job. Great job. I've had other people asking, especially churches, wanting to know, who did you get paint that? So I referred him around, and he's very good. Very good. We have entered into the contract on the paving, so that part is done, and the PO has been issued. So we were good going into this year with the amount from last year. Still looking at the 1st of August for a start date. I talked to Jackie earlier, and that's still estimate. Weather could throw them off a week or two, but we're still looking at the 1st of August. We did complete the sidewalk up to our maximum that we could spend. Shelton did get that in the week before the end of the year, so that has been completed. We've got to do some backfilling, but I need dry dirt to do that, and you know how it's been lately. So also the handrail out here has been finished. James finished that. Was that Wednesday? Wednesday or Thursday, something like that. So that's been completed as well. And one last thing to bring up, on 2nd Street, the 2nd block. We put in the budget this year to do a repair over at Rowan Park because we had a pipe failure. It is a definite pipe failure now. Yes, the hole opened up in that last thunderstorm and dropped about 3 feet. So we have blocked that part of the road off. It really only interferes with one house besides Miss Wendy Spry, if you know that house. But he can access it with no problem without having to go across it. So we've just blocked it off. I had a contractor in here looking at it yesterday. Salisbury Rowan was here and cambered it for me. The pipe going under Rowan Avenue is a 36-inch terracotta pipe. Anybody knows anything about that? Just grimaces, because that is not what I thought was under there. But that was put, and it's 15 feet deep to the top edge of the pipe. So you figure it's 18 to the bottom. So I've had one contractor, I've got another one on the way to look at it and see, because it's going to take some pretty big machinery to find it and figure out what's going on, because it changes to concrete somewhere by the time it gets to the next catch basin, and there's a bend in it. We're not sure exactly how they did it, whether there's a blind box in the ground. We're not sure. So we're investigating at this point. But it did fail. I mean, the camera went so far, and the top is completely out of it. And 3 sections back, the top, you can see the cracks where it's supporting it. So we're working quick as possible. Like I said, we did budget for that. It may be a little more extensive, but we may have to push another project off a little bit. But I think we'll be okay that way. We just got to get people in here that can do it, and that's going to be the main thing. So I'll be happy to take any questions.
CCAP project.
CCAP project. I did get the paperwork and submitted it to the other homeowner. That has not come back to me yet. Chris Sloop did file for an extension. The extension's been filed just to make sure that we're going to get in the time frame. I think the actual date ran through October, something on it, but he wanted to make sure he got it up front. Their board meeting, I believe, was last week. And he said, if you don't hear anything from me, then the extension went through. So everything's good with that. We'll be good for another year. And of course, we budgeted for the extra shrubbery that we're going to need on that lot in the budget this year. So I'm just trying to get signatures. That's where I'm at. As soon as I get that, Cindy is on board. All she's got to do is file for the permits, and then they can start work. We'll select the contractor, and then we'll go to work.
So you only need signatures from that one additional property owner?
That one and Mr. Hoskins. I've sent it to him several times. One time
if I see him,
if you see him, kind of
remind him.
Yeah, prod him a little bit, if you will, and tell him to send me my paper back. But the first time I sent it, he couldn't open it, so I did have to resend it. But the second time, I've not heard whether he could do it or not, and he may have just been busy or vacation or something. But that's what we're aiming for. Sooner the better. We'll get it started, because if we get started now, planting will be in a good time of year.
Well, and I think the key is you want that done before you start on the stuff upstream.
Yes, definitely. We want one out of the way before we start something else. Exactly. For sure.
Other questions from the board?
I have a favor to ask.
Uh-oh. No.
You know, in the last couple of years, in the severe storms we've had, we've lost a lot of significant old growth trees. Mm-hmm. And we're getting closer and closer to the park being going under construction. Would it be possible to hook up with Daryl Blackwelter or maybe Godley's or someone and look at an overall a bigger area to plant new trees like oaks instead of crepe myrtles, but
for the park.
Well, not just for the park, but areas in the town that could be that could use
sure. As we have to take others
new landscaping, to provide canopies for the town in the future. Mm-hmm. Granted, they won't grow to maturity overnight, but I think that as we improve things, especially in the downtown area, that there are other areas where we've lost significant trees that we could look in some way to replanting and putting substantial trees in there like oaks, maples, and things like that, hardwood, that would benefit the community.
Sure, absolutely. And if it comes to that and we do have to remove that other tree, of course we're going to plant something back in its place. Now, in my lifetime, I will never see maturity of that tree, but it will be growing, and we're going to put something back. in its place to help with the canopy a little bit better over there, because it's going to be void. It really is. I mean, all of our lives we've seen those trees standing there, but I can't leave a dangerous tree in a park.
Right.
Well,
that's landscaping, including trees, have a life.
They have a life.
Yeah.
That's it. And we can't fight Mother Nature but so much. And she's going to win every time. So, but I agree totally that we need to be planting hardwoods and stuff like that when we have to remove trees.
And it could get the schools involved, or any other organization that would wish to participate and give them a project.
Sure, absolutely, definitely.
Other questions from the board? All right. If you haven't checked the garbage truck out, be sure to do it afterwards.
I'll have the keys. Anybody can take it for a spin. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, you have your finance report in your packet. Obviously, that is from from June, the start of the new fiscal year this month. So, Peter, anything you want to add on the financial report?
Just the main thing I'll note is we did have the auditors in June to start their process. So we're off to a good start with that, and they planned to be here for a whole week and wound up only being here for half a week because they got everything they needed. Our staff did a great job of getting everything ready for them, and had things electronically, so they didn't have to scan things in, and so that process has started off very smoothly.
Very good. So, and I think it obviously is going to be more important than ever with some of the legislation that's out there that looks like it's probably gonna go through. The delays in audits will result in delays in sales tax disbursements, so for local municipalities. So, I don't know how great that is, considering you're at the mercy sometimes of your accounting firm, but good to hear that we're on track.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions on the finance report? All right. Hearing none. Library report.
So this past month and going into this month as well has been the summer reading program that Beverly has been putting on at the library. And this year it's been mermaid and pirate, kind of sea themed. And she's been having all sorts of crafts for the kids to do. And there's a story time every Tuesday. And actually on the 19th, there'll be, his name is Captain Jim is Magic, and he's going to be coming to, he does, what's it called? Like for kids, and he goes to schools and stuff and talks to them, like life lessons and all that sort of thing, along with his magic show that he does. And with the reading program, there'll be some special prizes for the kids who read the most books. And actually already last month, over 77 books were read by children. So good to see that.
Good. All right. Thank you for that report. Any questions from the board?
That event, is she having an event of some sort in July?
It's July 19th. It's not a full event per se, not like the May one, but like Captain Jim is Magic will be there. I want to say Kona Ice might be there. I forget for sure, but I believe they are.
Great. Anything else? All right. Thank you very much. And we will now move to the town manager report. Mr. Franzese.
Well, thank you. I'm going to provide a few updates, staff related, and I'm looking that way towards Joe in the back of the room in case he wants to share anything once I'm done. I think he might about our trailhead. Some very good progress there.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Excuse me.
Don't worry, we got it. We got it.
I really don't understand what's happening there. Okay.
She didn't either.
Yeah. All right. Sorry about that.
Alexis?
Supper.
Yeah. So, all right. Gotta remember what I was saying. Okay.
Got 'em all flustered now.
Yeah.
You're talking about staff.
Ask Alexis.
Thank you.
You recognize Joe back at the back.
Yeah, and then my wife started talking to him.
Okay.
All right, so now my parents are having a really good kick and laughing at this because they always watch. So, hi, Mom and Dad. I might as well just say that at this point. But what I wanted to mention is, as you know, our fellow for the last 2 years, Sky Allen, did a great job. Her time with us as a fellow has finished, and she's making the move back to Chapel Hill to attend graduate school at a university up there y'all might have heard of. But really proud of her effort that she's provided to the town over the last few years, and also her next step, and that her experience has planted a seed that she wants to grow in her public service and leadership. So we're excited about that. We actually have matched with a new fellow for the coming year. Our fellow is going to be somebody named Ryan Ledbetter, who is from Harrisburg. And Ryan will be joining us in August as a new fellow, so you'll get to meet Ryan then. And then we are seeking an MPA student to continue some of the efforts that Sky has been doing during her service as a fellow with a part-time remote internship opportunity. And we expect that you'll be getting an update about that in August as well. We also, related to our finance officer position, we've have talked to several more candidates, and we have one that we are going to be speaking with again this month. When we're hopeful that we've got a good candidate pool this time, and should be hopefully filling that position in the near future. And so, if there's any questions for me, I can take them. Otherwise, I'll invite Joe to give you the great news that he's got.
All right, questions from the board for Mr. Franzese?
I can't believe you're actually letting the NC State guy in all this. North Carolina.
Well, I was going to ask what college that was that Sky was going to. Is it Duke or something like that?
Yeah. NC State. I can't believe it.
So we might have a little more red around here for the next few years. So.
Gets my vote.
Talk about red. Go ahead.
All right, Mr. Morris.
There he is, old trailhead himself.
Yeah, old trailhead.
Well, I was actually thinking when we were talking to Joel, that there is an arborist in the room.
This is true.
I try to keep that tamped down.
But I have a really good memory, Joe. I have a really good
I am actually a certified arborist, so I can I'll be happy to assist if asked. So glad to do it. A brief update on our Yadkin River Park trailhead. If you've been passing by, you probably have noticed that the parking lot and the trail is now complete. The markings are in the parking spaces, and the signs for the handicap parking spaces are up, and there are bumper stops and all the things you would expect to have with a parking lot. The landscapers are really close to being finished. They put out, they mostly seeded all of the areas. They've been watering the trees. They have a plan to keep the landscape nursed along during the hot weather that we're expecting over the next few weeks. They've placed what you may or may not know are called gator bags, the plastic bag. At the base of each tree, they can fill with water that seeps water into all the trees. And so it's looking pretty good. We've got a couple of things to tie down. On our side, we've got the big rock that we're going to have etched with the town logo and the park name and the elevation and the longitude and latitude and the date of installation. And then I was out there earlier today. They've installed trash receptacles, the bike workstation, and there is a panel sign that has been installed
that is two-sided. On one side, it will have the master plan for the Spencer side of the river and the Davidson County side for the overall park master plan. And then on the reverse side will be the logos of our funding partners and agencies that have assisted in the development of the park. I listened in to the meeting just the other night, and there was talk about the potential dates for the dedication. I have 3 that I can throw out. I know that the board had expressed an interest in going ahead with that, but there were so many conflicts with staff vacations and a few little things that need to be done. We got pushed into August, really, as being the earliest date. And I've communicated with Ronnie Smith, but have not specifically nailed down a date for him. But all of these that we're proposing are on Fridays, and we would look at like a Friday morning before it got too hot, perhaps. So the dates that we're suggesting at this moment include Friday, August 18th, Friday, September 8th, and then Friday, September 15th, which puts us right at the Creek Week if we push it out that far. But those were the earliest available for everybody. I did poll the fellows at Benish, and all of those dates work for them. So I don't know that the board necessarily wants to make a decision tonight, and we can put this in an email or an invitation.
So tell us again, August 18th.
August 18th, September 8th, and September 15th. And recognizing, of course, that availability of staff is not necessarily driving this, but we need a couple of weeks to reach out. We had 120 people that were invited to the groundbreaking, and so we would want to get all those folks in. And along the way, we have added additional partners who are participating in this, so we need a couple of weeks to get notices out and that kind of thing. But again, August 18th, September 8th, and September 15th. And
does the board have any preference? Sooner rather than later? You want to shoot for August the 18th?
What time? In the morning would probably be definitely better because it's going to be hot.
Yes, we're thinking something like a 10 a.m. event. Yeah. So it's
earlier the better.
Now, the other option, the 8th, is the mayor's quarterly roundtable. And that would actually be a good time. That's from 8 to 9 a.m. to do that immediately thereafter. And it would encourage some of our other elected officials around to drop by.
Mm-hmm.
When was that?
Friday, September the 8th. How does that sound?
Yeah.
All right. I'm hearing this side of the table. Pretty good with it. You have work, I know. Yeah. Does that work? Okay.
Whatever y'all
All right, let's set up for the 8th then.
Okay.
Set up for the 8th at 10 a.m.
All right. Now, which date was it?
September the 8th.
September 18th.
No,
It wasn't one of his dates.
August 18th.
Oh,
September
August
8th. September 8th is the date we selected.
September 8th.
Correct. Okay.
Down there.
I'll be happy to answer.
It's easier to do it that way than to try to do it by email.
This is a question for you and probably also for Chief Bob. Are we continuing to surveillance in that area to prevent or reduce vandalism, things like that, as we, now that we're getting closer to end of construction?
Yeah, that was what Chief Powell mentioned. That he's actually going to be sitting down with the Davidson County Sheriff and try and come up with a mutual agreement that would allow our police force and their deputies to check in on both sides of the park.
Will we be involving the Chamber of Commerce as a ribbon cutting?
Yes.
Or okay.
We would invite
The
them.
zip
Yeah.
line.
No zip line.
And we'll invite people to the Davidson County.
Yes, absolutely. Similar to what we did with the groundbreaking.
Okay, I
Zip
got a quick question.
No zip.
I went to the groundbreaking for the Davidson County side and took Ryland. They had ice cream. Are we going to serve anything? I mean, I just think it would be nice if we could, even if
Pabst
it's in the
Blue
morning.
Well, at 10 o'clock, we can probably come up with, we can have something nice, I think.
Yeah, I just think it'd be nice. To
Lemonade.
say that, I think we need to do also.
We can take lemons and make lemonade.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. There you
Sounds
go.
good.
We can all eat donuts and run across the bridge.
Oh, well,
Hey, that would be fun. We could have
Sam, to answer your question too, we'd even talked, I think, a little bit about some potential measures on a few things to protect them with some coatings that would help prevent vandalism, that sort of. So Joe's looking into that.
Yes.
I have a question. Is the park officially going to open anytime soon? I mean, unofficially, I should say.
I'm happy to comment. So I, in our mind, and let us know if you think something differently, it would make sense that once the contractor has finished their work and turned it over to us, and everything's in place, we're prepared to allow it to just be used as a soft opening, process. And then that ought to give us several weeks where folks can just enjoy it. I think some people have already found their way through the net on the bridge here and there and are making use of the easier way to cross the river.
At the ribbon cutting, we could do magnet fishing down off the bridge.
That's not the first time you've said that.
I have, in my visits to the site, encountered people that are walking across and coming through the park and commenting about it.
That's good.
Very
That's good.
That's real good.
It's a nice entrance to the Spencer community. It really looks good.
Joe, you done good.
I hope it's a start that brings that area back back to life and does so in a positive way.
Yeah.
Thank you for all your work
Yes.
on it. Appreciate the update.
Okay.
Make sure Ronnie gets the first invite.
Absolutely.
All right. We will now move on to requests and comments by the mayor and board. And so with that, we're going to start with Mr. Miller tonight.
Okay, tonight I'd like to have a special thanks again to Joe Morris for his leadership on the park, like we've already commented. Good comments from Steve Blunt. Steve always does a good job recognizing troubled areas. I always think that area north of us is kind of no man's land, but that's something we do have to look at because sometimes I try to not focus on try to focus on the road and not what's on the sides because it is kind of an eyesore. I'm going to comment on one thing tonight. That is a week from next Monday night, the 17th, we have a very special meeting with the parade people about the future of the Christmas parade in Spencer. And it's at 6 o'clock and it's at the
Gateway Building
in
Salisbury.
Suite 200. And I encourage all our citizens, if you're interested in a Christmas parade, you need to show up. And I encourage all our board members to encourage people.
Show your support.
Show your support. Now, I want to be careful about what I'm saying. We need to show that we are all for this parade, but we've been painted in the wrong light, and I think it's unjust as far as that goes. As far as labeling our town as such as it is, so I want to go in there very diplomatically and respect everybody's rights as far as being a human being, because I think that's very true, and I don't think we do that. I mean, I think we respect everybody, whether they're race, creed, or whatever, as far as that goes. So I encourage everybody to please show up for this parade meeting, 6 o'clock. Ask questions, be responsive, be respectful, and show that Spencer deserves a parade in at Christmas time. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Ditto to what Steve just said. I'd also like to key on something that Joel said about the tournament and the response that he got, or responses that he received from other people in a desire to wanting to help host or hold other events there. That's important. To me, that's part of the road back that we've been on this journey to try to bring more events into our town to make it more attractive to not only our citizens but to others as well. And by growing these events, it can only mean positive things for the town.
Thank you, Mr. Morgan. Mr. Howe.
Just very briefly, I echo what Mr. Morgan just said. I think it's great to see these events going in Spencer. We went to the fireworks thing, I guess, back on the 1st, and it was just, again, great to see all those folks coming from outside the town and enjoying themselves, and the stuff out here out front of our building here was just awesome. A little bit different note, the municipal election time is, I guess, now open, and though I hope everyone beside me will stay where they are. I encourage all of our citizens, if you think we need to hear something different or do something differently, get involved. I think that it's better to have 6, 7, 8, 9 people running and different ideas, and that's what this process is supposed to be, than just barely enough to have a board. And there's no push or no one bringing new ideas or concepts. So get involved and do that. I think it's better if everyone if as many people as possible are bringing their thoughts and ideas and et cetera to the table. And I'll leave it at that.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Howe. Ms. Sledge.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Howell, for that recommendation. I think it's important that we try to get some younger people, some young blood, for Spencer. I appreciate everything that all this board's doing, and I do plan to file. I haven't done it yet, but we need some fresh ideas along the way, and I'm very grateful that we have our mayor and you, because you're considerably younger than some of the rest of us on the board.
You just made my day. That does not happen. People do not call me young anymore.
and we have a young town manager, and we have some young folks along the way that have contributed to the success of this town. I'm not sure how old you are, but anyway.
He's young.
He's young.
He's young. Well, I mean, he's fixing to get married, so maybe he is young. But it's great to have the involvement, and you're right. Having a larger candidate base makes all of us work harder, and makes all of us more aware. I did have a couple of things I did want to mention. Have had several citizens have contacted me in the last couple of weeks regarding issues. One of them to do with code enforcement, and Mr. Osborne was able to give me the information to get back to that individual with answers, and I got a reply back from her thanking me for getting back to her. So I want to thank Mr. Osborne for that. I had a citizen contact me about a fall on the sidewalks, and that was passed along, and I think Joel's going to take a look at that. So I would also like to congratulate Officer Riotti, but I really hate to see her taken off the streets, because I think it's really important to have that female role model out there as a police officer for us. So find us another good woman. And I do appreciate that. Joe, I love what's happening down at the river. So thank you. Thank you so much for all the work you've done for that. And Mr. Blunt, I'm glad that you have those right brain, left brain things going on. I'm sorry they give you headaches, but thank you again for your work as well.
Thank you, Ms. Sledge. Mr. Muhammad.
Okay, first of all, to piggyback off of what Steve was stating, and the rest of the board, it's important that meeting next week that, if we all can attend or if residents can attend to voice their opinion, words. Because the thing about it, just like the July 1st fireworks event we had, we want the residents and visitors to continue to come out to this town to engage in events and then possibly become residents here if they aren't residents already, and also to bring their businesses here as well. So with that being said, I want to thank the staff and the department heads and us here as board members for the hard work and due diligence that we do on a consistent basis.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would also like to give a big shout out to all our employees. I don't think any other municipality anywhere close there has the same caliber of people that we do. I'm very proud of all of you. And I'd also want to issue a big welcome to a new restaurant in Spencer. Mustafa's is up there right as you go on down towards Long Ferry Road. And it's wonderful. It's Turkish food, wonderful family, and I think they've moved into Spencer, and from what I understand, with 6 sons who will be attending the North End School, so that's a good plus too. It is in the former Gas Gobble and Go, but it's been redecorated and it's beautiful inside. So if you haven't visited, make sure that you do. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to the town for having something that I didn't even know existed. I had a request from North End Elementary School about a guided walking tour of Spencer. After they toured the shops, they wanted to do a walking tour here instead of going to Salisbury. And I told her that I wasn't aware that one had been created, but it has been. And Peter was so gracious to bring me a printed out copy. It's good, and we're going to update it, and so hopefully that will be available. I think Leslie's going to be involved in that, maybe with. Oh, I know. I started looking at that area. It was 2 or 3 blocks, and there's all kinds of things that we've got that will provide a great walking tour for visitors to the museum, not just student groups, but individuals and everything. So I just wanted to make the public aware that we will have that up here. I learned a lot of things when I read the brochure. It's good. Okay, and that was the main things that I wanted to say.
All right. Thank you very much. Not a lot on my end. Just expand on Mr. Howe and Ms. Sledge's comments about the upcoming election. Just a reminder to everybody that filing is ongoing right now. Filing will end next Friday, the 21st at noon. And so anybody interested can file at the Board of Elections office there at the West End Plaza, the old Salisbury Mall. And then beyond that, just want to clarify too, remember our upcoming election, for those that are interested in serving. The last election, there was a referendum that was passed by our community that extended terms and as well as staggered terms for the mayor and board members. And so this upcoming election, the mayoral election will be a 4-year term that folks will be voting on instead of 2. And then there will be the three highest vote getters from the Board of Alderman candidates. They will get a 4-year term, and then the next 3 will get a 2-year term, and that will effectively get us on staggered terms so that we'll be electing every 2 years. We'll be electing 3 new board members instead of 6. So just wanted to remind folks of that. The other thing is just to piggyback on how important it is for folks that do have an interest in the parade, that have been involved over the years and really stepped up to help lead that. Monday's a great opportunity to come and express your desire to continue a parade here in Spencer. We're looking at this as an opportunity to sit down with parade organizers, and really, kind of state our case for why we believe that the parade is so important to us and why we should continue partnering to make that happen, and make sure that we can work through some of the logistics and concerns that have been brought up. So we appreciate the parade committee for sitting down with us, and I appreciate board members for being willing to sit down as well, and hope that those that are interested in continuing the tradition of the parade will also come. And again, this is for us to sit down and seek discernment and thoughtfully talk through things, respectfully work through any of the issues that there may be, so that we can all come to a good resolution in the end. So I would ask that anybody that does come, please come in that mindset. With that, I do not have anything else, and we are at the end of our agenda unless there is a reason to go into executive session. All right, hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Muhammad. Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Howe. All in favor? All right, all opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.